Now, I want to speak a little bit about water because we are made up of 70% water, but it's not the water that runs out of your faucet. So Dr. Gerald Pollack, who is a professor at the University of Washington, has a massive amount of information on discovering the fourth phase of water, which is a gel phase that lives between the liquid and the solid. And what it looks like is a negatively charged phase of this gel that exists around cells and organelles. When that negative charged space expands, it causes all of the other solutes to get pushed out into what he calls the bulk water. And that creates a negative and positive charge that is very strong. It explains why there's surface tension in water. It explains why clouds stick together. It also explains why if you have a superficial cut on your arm, you don't just ooze out water. It's because that structured water is in the form of a gel. Now, structured water has many names. You may have heard fourth phase water. Dr. Pollack calls it easy water because he describes it as the exclusion zone. As it expands and gets bigger, it pushes everything else out of it. Ordered water is another word, coherent water, liquid crystalline state water, bioelectric water. They're all the same thing. And this structured water is what makes up all of the space in our body. It makes up our blood, our fascia, our tissues. It's in our bone and our bone marrow. If we become even slightly dehydrated, it has a significant impact on the body. The more dehydrated we get, the sicker we get. So water is extremely important and it needs to be structured. We have aquaporins in our cells, and these are the little holes that allow that structured water to come into the cell. And I think it's pretty fascinating that it understands that it doesn't want to have everything come into the cell. It only wants the right size molecule, the structured water, to enter the cell. So when we are drinking tap water or unstructured water, then our body has to mechanically convert that into structured water so that it can actually get into our cells. Well, that takes a lot of metabolic energy to do that. And sometimes we don't do it very efficiently. So we actually stay dehydrated. So many of my clients, when I ask them, what do you give your pets to drink? They go, oh, we give them filtered water. It comes from the refrigerator. Well, no, that is not structured water. And it's only filtered for iron, which is that rusty stuff, and for the smell of chlorine, but it's not healthy water. In fact, water coming from plastic bottles is worse because it still has all the toxins and about another 24,000 chemicals from the plastics that it was bottled in. So we're talking about a lot of bad things that we're getting through water. So when I say we're made of 70% water, our pets are 70% water, we have to really take a serious look at what are we drinking? What are we giving them to drink? Because we're really adding to the burden of toxicity with them. Now, I'm going to take it one step further because in today's modern age, we have so much more damage happening in our bodies. There's so many more free radicals that are occurring in our body from not just normal metabolic activity, but from stressors and from toxins and from all the things that are going on in our world. So a free radical is an OH minus. And in order to neutralize that, it needs a positive ion. Well, hydrogen is H plus. So if you remember your chemistry, when you take an H plus and you put it with an OH minus, not only does it neutralize the free radical, but it makes a structured water molecule. How cool is that? So I think in today's modern age, we have to have a way of being able to meet the oxidative stress that our bodies are under. We're never going to be able to eat enough antioxidant foods to do that. But one easy way to do that is by drinking structured filtered water that has molecular hydrogen in it. And so we do have a machine that uses a magnesium reaction. I love this machine because it doesn't require electricity. I live in Florida, the power goes out quite often. And so I can still make water by simply turning on my faucet. It goes through 14 filters. It goes through this process using magnesium, and the outcome is a hydrogen infused water. Now I want to tell you a little bit about live blood analysis. And I use this as a way of measuring the fourth phase of water, of measuring structured water. So these are red blood cells. Their job is to pick up oxygen, deliver that to the tissues, pick up waste material from the tissues, and deliver that out the lungs and out the body. It's a wonderful system, and the red blood cell uses its surface area. So imagine it's like a tennis ball. If you take a tennis ball and you put it underwater in a bucket, the entire surface area of that tennis ball is connected to the water. It's touching it. So you have full activity happening as an exchange between the tennis ball, i.e. the cell, and the fluid around it. But if I start to pack a whole lot more tennis balls into that bucket, so much to the point that they're all touching each other, they're going to look like this. And this is a condition we call rouleau. And it's where the fourth phase of water has collapsed and it no longer has enough negative charge to push everything away from it. So the cells collapse in on each other. Well, now you're looking at a bunch of cells where most of the surface area is covered, so it can't pick up oxygen and deliver that to the tissues, and it's not picking up enough waste material and getting it out of the body. So over time, we get severe derangements to the whole metabolic system. Now, we were taught in vet school that rouleau is normal in cats and horses. That, my friends, is a horrible lie, because over my last 25 to 30 years of doing live blood analysis and using elements that help to expand the fourth phase of water, I can make that rouleau go away in every species. And when it happens, these animals start to go from surviving to thriving. So here's an example. This is a cat. The video on the left is the blood of a cat where he's so sick, all of that fourth phase water has collapsed, super toxic cat. And we put him in our pulse electromagnetic frequency machine. Now we see the blood cells are not pretty yet. They're still rouleau, but they have some shape and they're starting to break apart. We did 4 consecutive days in our pulse electromagnetic frequency machine, and this is what the blood turned out to look like. So now we can actually see that this cat was anemic. We have some large red blood cells and we have some small red blood cells, which is an indicator of anemia. But now these cells can actually do their metabolic job. That is remarkable. This is a horse. We were told this is normal on horses. It is not. So in this particular case, I went to the racetrack and I did a bunch of horses. We did their live blood. And then I put a PEMF, a little sticker with frequency on each of the horses. They went out, they breathed, they came back in, and we repeated their blood. And they're on the lower right-hand side. Every single horse, the red blood cells separated because the fourth phase of water expanded, and the performance of these horses was hugely improved.